thank you for having me here. I feel like a celebrity taliyan waliyan but I really appreciate the opportunity. मेरी पिछली visit OneLink को 7 साल हो गए हैं. I think that was the time that I was here and I was working for the FinTech. I may have interacted with some of you that have been in the company for that long. So this is a familiar surrounding. Oh, sorry, new faces, but still, it's all good. So thanks for the introduction. Seema said a little bit about my background, and I think when we were talking about what I could touch upon for in terms of sharing my thoughts, I think one of the things was how OneLink is seen from outside, especially in the case of startups and fintechs, because मैं जो काम करती हूँ उसमें हम fintechs में invest करते हैं. And as some of you may or may not know, last year was a bumper year for fintechs, for startups in Pakistan, and they raised $350 million. उसका context ये है कि उससे पिछले वाले साल 60 million raise किए थे और उससे पिछले वाले साल 40 million raise किए थे. So yeah, last year suddenly we went from 60 to 350. There's a lot of activity happening in Pakistan, lots of interest, and 95 million of that was raised by fintechs. Focused on Pakistan. Now that ranges, obviously, you guys know, ranges from payments to lots of other verticals within fintech. And we've also invested in 3 fintechs in Pakistan. So in the context of startups and fintechs, अक्सर लोग ये पूछते हैं कि market में हो क्या रहा है, how has it suddenly become so active and what's going on. And I think one of the key things about Pakistan is that it's a big opportunity, it's a big market, it's a big, it's a young population, technology is becoming much more prevalent, लोग adopt भी कर रहे हैं. कोविड में जितनी बहुत बुरी चीजें हुई हैं, एक अच्छी चीज ये हुई कि लोगों ने टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट करना शुरू किया, and now we started seeing Kareem, but now we're seeing many more tech-based initiatives happening. So what that means is for the finance and the fintech industry, there's an opportunity to disrupt. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about that is because I think OneLink and the team here is in a very unique position as far as taking advantage of this opportunity. So first, the good news, Najib, if I may, that generally the market mein jo perception hai about OneLink from the startups perspective, from the fintechs perspective is very positive. So net positive, which I think we should give ourselves. और मैंने survey भी किया था between startups that are working with you, that are connecting in, others in the market, etc. So that's the good news. I think there is definitely, like for example, your affiliate program, there's very good feedback on that. People are being able to connect. I know that during this last 2 years, you've really focused on connecting with utility service providers, big opportunity. So I think a couple of things I wanted to touch upon just from my perspective. I think one is that there is, right now, OneLink is in a very good position given market mein aur kya cheezein ho rahi hain to leverage this. I think continuing with the affiliate program, focusing much more on it will be definitely a plus. And it will allow you to stay relevant. I think banks mein generally ये हो रहा है कि there's fear कि अब fintechs आ जाएंगी, हमारा काम निकल जाएगा, अब हम क्या करेंगे? And a lot of people are operating from fear, but I would say for you this is an opportunity. So flip that on its head and see how you can actually use what you've already built. Your systems are really strong. You have a good reputation in the market. आप already कितनी चीजें enable कर रहे हैं. I think what is needed is that mindset of saying, wow, this is exciting. How do I do more in this space? Rather than saying, oh no, क्या होने वाला है, कौन आ जाएगा, हमारी रोजी ले जाएगा, whatever. Because I think you are in a unique position to leverage that. And I think when it comes to individuals, and I know that you've been working very hard in fostering that culture, but I think when it comes to individuals, अपना काम तो करना है, but you can also have this approach कि और बेहतर कैसे कर सकते हैं, और creatively कैसे कर सकते हैं, और किससे connect कर सकते हैं. If you see things happening around you in Pakistan, talk to your manager about what you think OneLink can do there. Or if you see things happening in other markets. So एक फायदा हमारा ये है जो हम अभी शुरू कर रहे हैं जो जर्नी पे in the startup space is that we can learn from other markets. India is way ahead of us, but if you look at markets like Indonesia, there's a lot more similarity कि जहाँ पे वो 5 साल पहले थे या 7 साल पहले थे, अब पाकिस्तान वहाँ है. So there are lessons that you can learn just by going online and reading up on what happened. And we do this all the time. Whenever we're making an investment in Pakistan, we see कि और markets में क्या हुआ है, how did that go, how did they raise money, monetize कब किया, especially fintechs के लिहाज से in the context of what you guys do. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you have to be very culturally sensitive and understand कि पाकिस्तान में ये कैसे apply करेगा. And that's what the best companies today, the best founders, that's what they're doing. It's a mix of learning from what's happening outside and applying it in a way that allows you to really build for Pakistan. हमारा जो consumer है, मैं या आप, we are unique. हमारा culture अलग है. हमारा the way things happen is different. But the opportunities that presents means that you can take a model from somewhere else, improve it, learn from it, apply it to Pakistan, and then take it forward. So I think one thing that I would just say is be creative, think about what's happening outside. Do your work in a way that you understand where it fits into the bigger picture, because जब bigger picture में developments होंगे फिर आपको समझ में आएगा कि आप उसके अंदर कैसे plug in कर रहे हैं. So I think that's really important, and that's an exciting place to be in. I think you're building something that's really that's going to change the landscape of finance in Pakistan. The second thing I would say is that one of the biggest questions right now is Rast ka kya hoga, right? So from my perspective, when we talk about fintechs and we talk about ease of doing business, ease of connectivity, those kind of things, Rast always comes up. OneLink does not. But actually, you guys are doing the work already, and you're like years ahead of Rast, right? So there are synergies, and where there is overlap or competition, I think this is the time for you to be like, अगले 1-2 साल में हम अपनी position कैसे solidify कर सकते हैं कि we are way ahead. Affiliate program, for example, is one of those. Payments is one that you guys are really doing well at. So the question is, how do we recognize what's coming down the line, and how do we prepare for it today? Because I think there is an opportunity for you to leverage that now, rather than say, "Catch up, जब आएगा तो फिर देखेंगे adoption होगा नहीं होगा." Adoption is a question, right? I think even the startups may not be able to connect directly onto Rast. There's a whole identifier question and all that. So without nerding out on those details, so there's an opportunity here. Even with that coming down the line, there's an opportunity for the OneLink team to say, okay, we're already doing this, we've already established ourselves, तो हम और क्या कर सकते हैं कि अगले 1-2 साल में हम अपनी position ऐसी solidify करें कि बाद में जो आएंगे वो आएंगे और development होता रहेगा. You obviously have to keep moving, but that's one thing that I see is an opportunity for you guys. I think generally in terms of putting the word out there, I see updates because Seema and I used to work together and we're connected on LinkedIn. So मैं देखती रहती हूँ कि क्या हो रहा है, but generally in the market people don't necessarily know what's happening, and that's okay because you are not dealing with the ultimate consumer, but you do have the startups as your customers, right? So one thing that I think banks का जो मसला रहा है, and I'm an ex-banker by the way. I don't know if it came out in the introduction, but I started my career with Citibank in '98 after IBA, so now you know how old I am. If you can't tell by the grey hair. That was like the heyday of banking, commercial, consumer side pe bhi, and corporate side pe bhi. But so I've seen banks from the inside. 5 years in, I realized मुझे banker नहीं बनना है, बड़े होके banker नहीं बनना है, and so I left. And I'm very grateful that I am not a banker anymore. So if anybody's an ex-banker over here, high five, and I'm glad you also did that.
Many, right?
Many, right?
How many are there? कितने ex-bankers हैं?
They saw the light and made the move. But the point where I want to make about banks and bankers is कि एक mindset होता है, right? And it's very often a defensive mindset. And I don't know if this is going to be public or not, but I will say it anyway. I think banks in Pakistan have become a little lazy. I know that they're your sponsors, so nothing personal. But I think they've become a little lazy because पैसे तो बन रहे हैं market में, नाम जो है वो है, but पैसे बन रहे हैं, customers आ रहे हैं, large corporates and governments, etc. But what's happening is if you go on Twitter and you see the kind of customer service issues, there are more negatives than positives any given day. आपको 50 नजर आएंगे complaints और 1 नजर आएगी positive review. So I think the challenge has been for banks that customer service has not been a priority and has fallen. So the reason why I'm bringing that up in your context is because I think your customers are banks and fintechs and startups and PSO, PSP, whoever is connecting into OneLink are your customers. And I think one thing that I would say is like focus on quality, because अक्सर हमारे पाकिस्तान में हम slip हो जाते हैं. अच्छा ठीक है यार, कौन देख रहा है, कोई नहीं देख रहा, तो कोई बात नहीं, इतना बुरा तो नहीं है ना, कर लिया काम. But I think there's a mindset in excellence that is required, and banks don't focus on that from a customer service perspective, because at the end of the day कोई एक बेचारा या बेचारी होंगी customer service head जिनको सारी मसला उन पे पड़ता होगा. When I used to be at Citibank, मैं corporate side पे थी, I had nothing to do with credit cards, but credit cards नए निकले थे. every खाला, चाची, मामी, neighbor, दुकान वाला, किसी को भी मैं बताती थी मैं सिटी बैंक में काम करती हूँ, आपका credit card, and I would hear नज़ला मुझ पे उतरता था. So you get associated with those things, but customer service has been an issue always for the last 2 decades at least. So I think for you guys being in the finance space, focus on customer service and excellence is something that I think you should not compromise on, and this is a really good time for you to leverage that because there are new entrants in the market who don't know you. जो मैं इसलिए बात कर रही हूँ because my perspective, I invest in startups. So, and we've invested in 3 FinTechs, and one of them is Abhi, which some of you may already be working with because they are connected in. So, my point is that there is a perception of quality that we need to focus and build on. So I think those are a couple of things that I wanted to sort of mention in terms of my experience and how it could potentially come into what you guys are saying. I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, we're at a very exciting space right now. And as we look at early startup spaces, जो हम 3 sectors देखते हैं जो एक साथ grow करते हैं, it's e-commerce, logistics, and payments. And those 3 together are actually what propels the economy forward in a startup context, which is मैं अपने experience से बात कर रही हूँ. And Pakistan we're starting to see that. So we're starting to see e-commerce take off. उसके साथ-साथ logistics और उसके साथ-साथ payments is really important. So I think where you guys sit today is at a very crucial point of what is happening in Pakistan, even at a broader startup space. और एक लिहाज से अगर आप relevance की बात करें तो payments तो हर चीज में हर transaction में payment होती है. And the question is, how do you get involved in it? How do you leverage it? How do you make yourself relevant so that people are thinking of you? Whether it's brand building or whether it's letting your reputation speak for yourself, it's whether it's customer service and quality. But those are a few of the things that I think is an opportunity for OneLink right now. And what I started with was that this is a positive thing because generally market में अभी लोग ये कह रहे हैं कि अच्छा there's a good team. There are people that are doing their job well, and that there's an openness and there's a willingness to work with startups. बजाय इसके कि आप अपने company घुस जाए cave में कि पता नहीं क्या होने वाला है, ये आ रहा है ऊपर से. This is an opportunity for you to stay relevant. And yeah, I just want to wish you all the luck. And I don't know if 15 minutes हो गए ना. So thank you for the opportunity. मुझे लग रहा है मैं बस बात ही करे जा रही हूँ, so I'm going to stop now. But thank you.